Okay, and we're live. Welcome to Systemic Conversations, where we explore the unseen dynamics shaping our lives through the lens of family constellations. I'm Carole, and I'm joined by Orianne to dive into a complex and often misunderstood emotion shame. Shame is not always negative, there is both positive shame and toxic shame. Positive shame helps us regulate our behavior, allowing us to function within social and cultural norms. It serves as a guide, helping us recognize when we have crossed a boundary or acted in a way that does not align with our values. Toxic shame, on the other hand, is deeply destructive. Instead of focusing on behavior, it targets identity, leading people to believe they are inherently flawed or unworthy. In this episode, we will focus on toxic shame, as it is the form that often causes deep emotional and systemic wounds. We'll explore how it differs from guilt, how it manifests in family constellation, and most importantly, how we can begin to release it. Welcome, Orianne.
Thank you, Carol. Shame is such a deep and often hidden force in our lives. Many people carry toxic shame without realizing it, and it can shape their relationships, self worth, and choices.
So before we go deeper, it's really let's sorry, let's really clarify the difference between guilt and shame, as they're often confused. Oriane, how would you describe the distinction?
Well, guilt is about an action. I did something bad. It's a signal that we have acted against our values and need to make amends. In the other hand, shame is about identity. I'm bad. It's much more pervasive and can feel like a permanent stain on who we are.
Yes, guilt can actually be useful. It motivates us to correct our behavior, but shame often leads to withdrawal, self sabotage, or feeling fundamentally unworthy.
Exactly, Carol. And systemically, shame can be inherited from previous generations. A family member who experienced public disgrace, exile, or punishment may not have processed their shame, and instead it gets passed down unconsciously.
So, shame often doesn't even belong to us. It's something we carry unknowingly, feeling it in our bones without understanding where it comes from. So, in constellations, we often see shame hiding beneath other symptoms. Oriane, what are some of the ways shame shows up in families?
Well, a common pattern is silence, secrets that no one talks about. A grandparent who was imprisoned, a mother who had a child out of wedlock in a time when it was taboo, a family member with mental illness that was hidden. These experiences carry shame, and that shame doesn't just disappear, it lingers and gets passed down through the generations.
And yes, sometimes we see people carrying shame without even knowing the story behind it. They might experience chronic self doubt, feelings of not good enough, or fear of being seen.
And another way it manifests is through loyalty to family pain. If an ancestor was cast out or disgraced, a descendant might unconsciously limit their own success or happiness to remain connected to the family's suffering. Instead of breaking free, they hold themselves back, fearing that moving forward would mean abandoning their origins.
And then there's how shame affects our sense of belonging. When a family has unresolved shame, later generations may struggle with feeling truly accepted, even when there's no logical reason. They may carry an unconscious belief that they don't deserve to be included, which can create feelings of isolation.
Shame thrives in secrecy. The more we keep it hidden, the more powerful it becomes.
So, many people carry toxic shame without realizing it, as we said, and it can manifest physically, emotionally, and in our behaviors. So, let's explore some of the ways shame can show up in daily lives and how we show up in the world as it manifests in deep psychological patterns that hold us back in life.
Yes, Carol, shame operates beneath the surface, influencing how we interact with ourselves and others. Some people might recognize it through certain thoughts, patterns, or behaviors that have been present for years.
So, one common sign is perfectionism. When people carry deep shame, they might believe they have to be perfect in order to be accepted. They set impossibly high standards for themselves and feel devastated when they fall short, reinforcing their sense of unworthiness.
And closely linked to that is people pleasing. Some people with toxic shame find it difficult to say no or set boundaries. They constantly seek approval, fearing that if they don't meet others' expectations, they will be rejected.
Another pattern is over apologizing. People who carry shame often take responsibility for things that aren't their fault. They say, I'm sorry excessively, even when they haven't done anything wrong, because they feel fundamentally at fault.
And then there is hiding or avoiding visibility. Some people withdraw socially or avoid situations where they might be seen, as though they are trying to make themselves invisible. They might not apply for jobs they desert or avoid leadership roles or hesitate to express their opinions out of fear of judgment.
And another common behavior is self sabotage. When good things start happening, whether in relationships, work, or personal achievements, they unconsciously undermine their success because they don't believe they deserve it.
And let's not forget the physical manifestation of shame.
Yeah, and some of them are not very obvious. The first sign is physical constriction or tension. People who carry shame often feel tightness in the chest, throat, or stomach, and is bracing against an invisible pressure. As some even experience chronic digestive issues, shallow breathing, or muscle stiffness. A client once described feeling a constant pressure on her chest, like she was being weighted down. Through constellation work, she realized this tension sensation was linked to generations of women in her family who had been silenced.
Another sign is posture and body language. Shame can make people physically shrink, hunch shoulders, avoiding eye contact, or standing with arms crossed protectively over the body. Many who carry shame instinctively make themselves smaller in social settings. In constellation, we sometimes see participants instinctively curling inwards or standing on the edges of the field, physically embodying a deep sense of shame.
A third indicator, as we mentioned, is avoidance of eye contact. Holding direct eye contact can feel unbearable when someone is carrying shame, as though they will be seen in their supposed unworthiness.
Yeah, and another common experience is the feeling of wanting to hide or disappear. Some people struggle with taking up space in the world, often preferring to sit at the back of rooms, fade into the background, or avoid being the center of attention. A client once shared that she always sat at the back of a room in meetings, never wanting to be seen, despite being highly competent. When we explored this, we uncovered a deep ancestral shame related to social exclusion.
So, how do we begin healing shame? What are the first steps, Oriane?
Simple awareness is the key. Just realizing that you are carrying shame, especially if it was passed down to you, already starts to shift it. A powerful practice is saying, this shame does not belong to me. I return it to you with love and respect.
Yes, that's true. In family constellations, we often use sentences like, I see you, I honor your fate, I no longer carry this with you or for you. It's about acknowledging the past, but choosing not to be weighted down by it.
Another approach is shifting shame through visibility. Shame thrives in secrecy, so bringing it into safe, supportive spaces, whether through therapy or consolation, can help transform it.
Yeah, that's true, Oriane. That reminds me of a client who came to Family Constellation to a workshop of mine, feeling stuck in her business. She couldn't understand why, despite her talent and experience, she kept holding herself back. During the constellation, one of the observers who was around unexpectedly felt drawn to enter the knowing field as a representative. Without fully understanding why, they lay down on the floor as if weighed down by something unseen. When I gently asked the client if this resonated, she suddenly made the connection. She had been carrying immense shame of an unresolved conflict with the tax authorities who had accused her of fraud. She had never spoken about it out loud, not even to her closest friends. As soon as she acknowledged the shame in front of the group, something shifted. The weight lifted, and she realized the situation did not define her. Over time, she was able to step back into her leadership role with confidence and guide a company with renewed energy. This is a perfect example of how shame loses its grip once it's brought into the light.
And this is the power of family consolation, isn't it? Well, healing shame isn't just a personal journey, it has ripple effects on our families and future generations. When we release shame, we create more space for connection, joy, and self acceptance.
This is so beautiful and powerful. Thank you so much for joining us today. And a huge thank you to all our listeners for being part of this conversation. If you found this episode helpful, we'd love you to share, like, and comment, and let us know your thoughts.
And don't forget to subscribe so you receive notification about our future episodes. If you missed any of our previous conversations, you can always go back and watch them as replays. Next time on Systemic Conversations, we uncover how sibling dynamics shape our lives.
Yeah, we will go into birth order, hidden family rules, and forgotten siblings. How do they influence our relationships and careers?
Join us as we explore the unseen forces of sibling bonds and rivalries. Don't miss it!
We really appreciate you being here with us, and we look forward to continuing this systemic conversation. Until next time.
Bye!